Coming up on this episode of Audacity to Lead.
Was very instrumental to helping me go through that process. And what did I have to do? And I told myself, I said, so that's how the podcasting, journey started. So some of them I have, when I have the audio files.
Inspiring actionable content that helps you get focused, get started, and be impactful. This is Audacity to Lead.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Audacity to Lead. My name is Dio Samuel and this is the podcast where I give you the courage and the necessary insight to step out and lead with more influence. Today I'm excited to be having one of those persons that we actually got started on this podcast journey together, and the man by the name Segun Akiode. It's good to be having you on the show today.
Thank you, Dio Samuel. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited as well.
Now, today we are going to be having a conversation around your journey, and particularly we are looking at bringing out lessons that you've learned doing business. But before we jump into that, we'll go into your background. So this episode is going to be really, really wonderful. So if you're listening for the first time, you're welcome to Audacity to Lead. And like I always say, my goal here is to help you magnetize, mesmerize, and monetize your message and audience online. And the reason why you should do that is because you need to have a marketable program, a meaningful platform, and a compelling message. So doing that today, someone who's done that actually is Segun Akiode, and I'm so super excited to be having you on the show again. Welcome once again.
I'm blushing. Oh, thank you very much, Dio Samuel, for having me on the show today.
You're very welcome. So today, let's just get into the conversation right away. Let's get to talk about how you got started with what you do now, how you, from where you started, and how it's been so far. Okay, just give us a synopsis. Who is Segun Akiode? I could have done that.
Okay. I usually start this way on my podcast. I say for first-time listeners, I like to describe myself as a career and employability coach. But I didn't start that way. Most of the things I'm going to be sharing today, a few of the things will be telling you some of the things you can find online, and some of the things that you cannot find anywhere. Maybe you're having the privilege to have that, some of this information.
That's actually the goal.
I read chemical engineering from Obafemi University. Most of the time I don't like mentioning the university because there is a way people associate. They feel people are, when you say OAU, you are a proud person. So, and I don't usually enjoy that effigy or whatever. So usually I mellow down on that. But I read chemical engineering. But currently I'm in human resources. I started out into human resources by what I would call now from insight, career self-discovery. I usually say that when it happened, I didn't know I was doing self-discovery. Now, after knowledge, understanding it, and even coaching people, you can be able to say it was actually self-discovery. And it started while I was I had opportunity. Before I went to university, I had an OND in chemical engineering technology. And it's important for you to know also that why did I go to the Polytechnic and not the university straight? It was because I did not pass my English language on my first sitting. And interestingly is the fact that while I was still in secondary school, I had an opportunity to do an exam they call qualifying exam. I'm sure you don't know what that exam is. Now, the qualifying exam is actually an exam that you should do before your GCE. Funny enough, I can't even remember who offers that exam anymore. But I noticed somebody introduced me to the exam. It's just like it's you can take it while you are in SS1, SS2 before your GCE exam. And I had opportunity to do that exam, so it gave me the first hand to understanding how a GCE exam will be. So by the time I was in SS2, before I got into SS3, I did my first GCE exam. And interestingly is the fact that I had most C's at my first exam. In chemistry, I think I had my first attempt at chemistry. I enjoyed chemistry, so my first attempt, I was not surprised. I had an A3. Then when they used to use A3, now they use B2 and B3. So we got the original. You understand? So, but I didn't get English. I didn't pass my English on my first sitting, so I needed to take the route to the Polytechnic. I was in Lagos. I was in Lagos State Polytechnic. While I was in my second year in the Polytechnic, I had to make a decision. My decision is either to go for HND Chemical Engineering Technology, and there were limited polytechnics doing it. It's either I go to BIDA or I go to CAD Poly. I was not willing to go to the North. And Lagos State Polytechnic was only doing OND. So I needed to go and enroll for my GCE exam all over again.
Wow. And
do you know what I did? I did not register in my locality where I stay at home. So I went to Shomolu. I grew up in Oshodi.
Yep.
I went to Oshodi High School. And for most people that feel Oshodi is the market, is not. It's not the market. It's their life there. So, but interestingly is the fact that I needed to make a decision. So I had to write my GCE all over again. And beautifully, I passed. Wow. And the second time I was doing it, I had an A1 in mathematics. My chemistry was like A2 or thereabout, and that was how I now to do a direct entry to the university. I didn't get my direct entry in the first time, so I had to, my life has been filled with a lot of bus stops, a lot of ups and downs, and most times people see it that, wow, this guy has arrived. They don't understand that there's always a story behind it. So I'm sure this is the very first time I'm sharing this on the podcast.
Interestingly,
and I didn't get my direct entry the first time. I even finished 2 months on the university campus waiting for an admission list. Admission list came out, then they were doing 40-60%, and my name didn't come out. And I had to pack my bag after like 3 months on OU campus. It was more than crying. I almost committed suicide, but thank God I didn't go through that route. But I had to literally pack my bag. But thank God for good friends. I know one of my friends at that time, and he's still my friend today, was very instrumental to helping me go through that process. And what did I have to do? And I told myself, I said, if I didn't get into OAU at that time, I was going to be in OAU. The OAU was going to send for me. And literally, by the time I applied for my direct entry again, they gave the reasons why I was not shortlisted, but I knew maybe it was because of the 40-60. By the time I was called back to go to OAU, I was literally told that my name was out, even while I was in Lagos.
Wow.
And I went in, did chemical engineering, but I noticed there were some other things that was taking my attention. I remember telling my OND friend, was the best graduating student in my set. I told him one day, I said, do you know I'm not seeing myself on the oil rig? He looked at me literally and said, guy, are you okay? Why you doing chemical engineering if you're going to... But there was something in my mind telling me, Segun, you're not going to be in the oil rig. Maybe because during this period I was much more sold out to youth development, youth-related work, things around manpower planning. We can call it manpower planning and manpower empowerment. But those days it was just, let's just be useful. Yeah. And maybe somewhere along the line during my secondary school days, I was introduced to what they call principles of life and success. So I had the opportunity to study the lives of Abraham Lincoln, study the success stories, quotable quotes, and somewhere along the line it started telling me something around impact. So for me, I was like saying, what course or what can I follow, path can I follow that will give me impact? I read chemical engineering because I was good in maths, I was good in chemistry, I enjoyed myself. I didn't like physics too much, and I did not enjoy biology, though later on I taught biology, but that's a story for another day. But interestingly was that I just narrowed down, the usual engineering, the big four. If you're not doing accounting, you are doing law, you're going to medical school, and engineering. So I just technically, engineering, which I didn't like mechanical because I didn't like physics. That was my thought process. And I think even still saying that, it still goes back to the way people choose careers today or chooses courses to do. I know that from insight, if I had much understanding about myself now, I'll have gone for a course that will take me lesser time. I'll have gone for a course around philosophy or psychology. and I'll have had short, or even universities are offering human resource courses today. So while I was in 400 level, I had an epiphany, and the epiphany was, I just asked myself, Segun, I'm not likely to be in the oil rig. What can I do? And a friend told me, just check out. I noticed I never did any industrial attachment in any oil firm. I had even done an IT in a printing firm before. One of my OND ITs, I did it in a printing firm. But I just noticed so many things were happening. And in my 400 level, I had an opportunity to lead my class in a particular course. We call it CV 401. It was technical report writing. And the course was two-way. There was a class assignment and an individual assignment. The class assignment needed the class to have something to do. An assignment will be given to the department. So the department is expected to come up with one single report. And in my class, by the time I was done, at that time in 400 level, I had nothing less than 15 first class students. I was in 2-1. But I found myself leading all of them.
Wow.
Due to one thing. While we're deciding to do a feasibility study, write proposals, during my OND, I did something similar to that. I had a template to work with.
Yeah.
So while they were talking about it, I just looked at them and I said, aside the technicality of what you're going to do, I think I have an experience. So I put myself forward, and I noticed that my class, my department did very well at the end of the day. Now, that taught me something. You have potential for leadership. I was able to coordinate the people and help them to achieve a certain result. So technically, it was pushing me away from the technical stuff. At a point, I was getting tired with the technical jargons of thermodynamics, mass transfer. I love chemical engineering. At least my degree can show for that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I noticed something else was drawing me away from it. And while I was in my when I was done with university, I already decided, Segun, you are not going into any oil rig. Though I got an opportunity to do a mobile test, which I did not eventually do before I went for my NYC. It's a very interesting story. I can't remember. I think I was playing around the mobile sites at a time, and I dropped my CV, and I was invited for the test. I'd not even gone for NYC. I was waiting to go for NYC. Why didn't I do that test? Was simply because I didn't have an NYC discharge certificate. Maybe if I'd done the test, maybe I would have been in mobile today. But somewhere along the line, I just needed. So when I served in the North. So even before I left university, I remembered a friend, my very good friend, that helped me go through that process when I didn't get into OAU the first time. Started working, left the university before me, got an opportunity, started working. He gave me my first financial gift, cash gift. I went to buy a book called CV Writing. While I was in university, at my final year program, I even had a small session to teach people how to write their CVs. For me, it was just coming naturally to me. I think from those experiences. So even during my NYC, I just told myself, I'm going to narrow down to something. My very first opportunity to know what human resources was all about was when I saw a brochure for CIPM from somebody during NYSC. And as I saw that,
right?
No, CIPM, Chartered Institute of Personnel Managers.
Oh, personnel.
They do a certification program where you become an associate member of the institute. I saw that brochure and I said, yes, this is the word I've been looking for. I think it's going to be human resources. And lo and behold, I spent my 1 year NYSC strategizing for my first job.
Wow.
I knew the market was going to be challenging. I knew who would give chemical engineering a foot in the door. And I had resources because somewhere along the line, I came in contact with a CD, a Career Expo CD. And that CD was saying employers don't make house calls. Package yourself, deliver yourself in front of the employers. And that was exactly what I did. So I used my entire 1 year NYC reading up around CV writing, around functional CVs. How do I present all the extracurricular activities I've done and be able to get a job? Lo and behold, by the time I was done with my NYC in July, I got a job in September.
Wow.
I was leaving the North and I was coming down to Lagos. I knew exactly what I was coming to do. Unlike most people that will finish the NYC and they are coming clueless, I already knew. I was looking for an internship opportunity in HR. Simple.
Wow.
I was not even looking for a full-time opportunity. I said, okay, let me strategize this way. If I get an opportunity to do HR for 1 year, then in that 1 year, let me save enough. Let me start my certification as an associate of CIPM. Gradually, just competency, acquisition of competency. Cut the long story short, did my CV, did the application, researched HR consulting firms in Lagos. Funny enough, the day I submitted my CV, I submitted to 3 organizations in Lagos. All of them, one was in Ikoyi, 2 was in Ikeja. One of the places I submitted in Ikeja, which happened to be my very first job, Human Edge, I submitted it in the morning, got home, and I was still telling my sister, saying, I walked around Lagos today, even a place where they said they were not collecting CV, because it was packaged, addressed to the MD. I can't take it. They can't take it as CV. You know,
I thought it was a parcel.
Exactly. I walked into an organization and I addressed it to the MD. The receptionist which I later became, let me say, supervisor for, was asking me, do you know Mr. Folari? I said, he said, does Mr. Folari know you? I said, the details are in the parcel, as in the package. It was just, and lo and behold, as I was still telling my elder sister about it, and she was saying, Segun, are you okay? I got a call. Either a call or a text message, calling me for an interview the next day. And I was saying, is this real? Unconsciously for me, unknown to me, they were actually recruiting
at that time.
Oh. So they saw the CV, the MD saw it. Later I discovered that the MD was wondering what's internship. The MD was saying, who is this guy that had the guts? Because the organization was flying solo in the sense that, you know, there are a lot of organizations, consulting firms in Nigeria that are very quiet. They are not in the big 4, but they are doing so much wonderful things, and they just feel that nobody knows them. They are not always in the papers or thereabout. They are not doing massive marketing, but they are really doing beautiful things. So that the man just felt, I need to talk to this guy. So for me, I had the opportunity to meet with the general manager at that time. So I sat down in that interview and she was asking me questions. What did I put in my CV? Extracurricular activities, things I did out of fellowship within the department, how I led. At that point, I think I started writing for a magazine at that time also, Atmosphere of Success. So these are some of the things. And how did I get those things? Go online, Google, get information. It was almost like writing what somebody else had written from your own perspective. And I looked so interesting. The lady gave me a feedback and said, I think you have what we need to make a consultant. And I had the opportunity to meet with the MD. Interestingly, the day I met with the MD, something crossed my mind that I should take my BSc project with me. HR job, not related to my... What did I do in my BSc program? I did heavy metal presence in municipal water supply. I'm sure you don't know what that is. So
you shouldn't expect me to know.
So there was nothing related to my HR project, my BSc project, and the HR opportunity I came for. But I came in early, 30 minutes before the interview, and the man the MD chose to call me 15 minutes after. And why? He said, you're already around. There's no need keeping you waiting. And I decided to see you early. One of the things we discussed was my BSc project.
Oh, wow. He just brought it out.
Later, he told me why he asked. He said, for most fresh graduates, he like asking them about their BSc project. Why? Most people pay others to do their BSc project. They don't even have a clue about their project. So when you ask them to talk about it, they are lost. And there's so many lessons you can draw from somebody doing his BSc project. Research skills.
Yeah.
Analytical skills, ability to present it at a difference. So as small as it looked, that was exact. So while I was talking, we finished that conversation and he asked me, he said, what's an internship? And I was surprised. I said, later, because I eventually worked with him, I said, this man, you should know more than this. But in actual sense, he said he was hearing the word internship for the very first time. And I said, internship is when you're willing to work for free to learn the rope of a particular thing. He said, wow, is that what it means? That's interesting. He asked me one question. Have you worked anywhere before? I looked at myself. I said, no. He looked at my CV again and said, he was impressed by the extracurricular. That brings another question to say, most fresh graduates feel that they must wait for opportunities. They don't know that there are a lot of volunteering opportunities, which worked in my favor. By the time I got an offer, all of this was happening around. I left NYC July. All of this was happening in August. I got an offer to start work September, which was like barely 8 weeks after I left my NYC. And they said the offer didn't tell me to be to be an internship. They offered me a job. Guess my first salary. Ridiculously 60,000 naira.
Oh wow.
So that takes me to another question, or helps to answer another question. Most fresh graduates in Nigeria feel that their first job must be a big pay. You overvalue your BSc program. But do you know the interesting thing? That 60K doubled in a year.
Wow.
Because after a year, they reviewed my performance and they reviewed. And it was doubled. So if I was saying 60K, what would I do with 60K? I was not interested in the 60K. This is a chemical engineering guy that did not know jack about HR except what he has read. I'll tell you, it was a university for me. Because in 1 year, I had opportunity to work on projects that till tomorrow, some HR people have not had opportunity to work on such projects. I'm saying it with all sense of modesty because it really built me so much. I had opportunity to work directly with a managing director. We work on, and some of the things that I now do on an independent consulting level were back to my very first job.
Interesting. That
I'm sure I've answered so much.
yes, you have actually answered a lot of questions that I was going to ask. Now that takes me into asking about what, of course, now you've told us what led to you becoming an HR from all the way from chemical engineering.
Yeah.
Now, you started working as a consultant at first as an employee there, then you transited into being a consultant. Now, that's something changed there, and I believe it wasn't just about the role you were given. Something must have changed. But did anything change within you to be able to help you embrace?
Yes, I would say something changed, and that was not the only company I worked for. I actually had the opportunity to work from some other HR consulting firm, and I had the opportunity also to work in internal HR as an HR manager position. But one thing that I learned from my consulting year is that when you are in an organization, if you are able to replicate the system in that organization, then you are learning. Now, what that means is this: many people are in organizations today, and if you ask them, how much money is this organization making? What's the business model of this organization? It looks like a big word. But as far back then, I had an understanding of how businesses make money. Now, if I'm able to understand how businesses make money, that means I can successfully build a business and how to make money. So I can replicate the system. Now, interesting from that consulting experience, some of the things that also change is the fact that when you're working in a multinational, there are structures. Somebody built the structure. That's why multinationals work. And if you take somebody from a multinational into another organization, if that guy has not learned how the structures in a multinational work, he will fail where he's going to. That's what changed. The mindset. The mindset of not seeing myself as an employee alone, but seeing myself in the shoes of an employer. To say, if an employer chooses to pay me 10 naira, for them to give me 10 naira, I must be making like times 10 of it.
Sure.
If I'm able to know how to make times 10 of it, then I'm able to build a business on my own. So my mindset was not all about, I didn't even start out that I was going to start a business or even be doing independent consulting at the moment. It started, I would say it happened so many times. I've had times when I lost my job, as in literally lost my job. As in, I've actually lost my job 3 times.
I know one of such times.
Okay. So I've actually lost my job 3 times, which for some of them, they were just technical breaks. They were just movement from one organization to another. So we may not call it a job loss, but in technical term, you lost a job when you move from one organization to another. But basically, it was a function of, I have a plan to do it in a certain number of years, but it came early. So it's a function of 10 years. I'm going to start up something on my own, but it came a bit early than the normal 10 years. To even add to it is the fact that maybe that may not be at the point I was doing my entering into work experience, I got in a bit late than others.
Okay.
In the sense that people were getting into start working at 25, 26, but I was doing it at age 30. So technically, something should reset in your head to say you're not going to look at the work from that perspective. Now, looking back now, I would say the entire perspective changed from maybe the consulting experience helped me. Maybe because of the fact that I had the opportunity to sit with business leaders, business owners, help them solve HR issues. And stylishly, it was resetting something in your head to say, if you can advise a managing director to say, why don't you look at your talents attraction this way, and they take your advice and it works, there's a boost it gives to you to say, oh, that means if I just, and literally for some of these things, you may just be giving an experience or an example based on what has been done before, and when somebody now applies it, it now works. Something sets in you and I say, wow, this is beautiful, I think I can do this. Now that now takes me to how I was forced
to start your
to start. And starting was maybe not fully starting at the beginning. It started up by saying, let's go freelancing.
Okay.
Let's freelance to say, because my very first, if I want to count that time, my very first attempt in getting into a multinational was actually on a fixed term contract. They had a talent solution to solve, a talent challenge to solve, and I needed to come in. So for me, it was a beautiful start for me. Beautiful start in the sense that I was now coming in as what they call a specialist. So that takes me to the next thing to say, what changed? I needed to have a niche or something I am known for in HR. So with all sense of humility, today when I'm online, I see people talk about career issues, and when they are sending a tweet or sending a Facebook status, I find my name in the tag, and I'm wondering why. Recently, there's somebody in South Africa that has a Twitter chat on Fridays and even sometimes on weekends, and I find out the first time he tagged me, where is this person? South Africa. What do I have to do here in Nigeria? The other time I had the opportunity to be on a Twitter chat with Jobberman, Ghana. I do a lot of work with Jobberman Nigeria. We are friends. But I was surprised. Jobberman Ghana called me up and said they wanted to do a Twitter chat. So I had the opportunity. So now, what am I saying? Know a niche you wanted to narrow down into. I started up as a generalist, but gradually I've niched into talent acquisition. I've niched into HR consulting, not just any type, organizational development, things that had to do around compensation and benefit.
Interesting.
So when it had, because I had opportunity, I've had in my very first few years of HR, I had opportunity to do what we call a remuneration survey. Very few HR people get opportunity to do it. Not because it doesn't come up, but because it's getting, let me say, the need for most organizations, they don't want to do it because of the cost, getting primary data and a few things. But I had an opportunity to do that. So for me, I was gradually having a niche. Now, the side most people know Segun Akiode as is the mass market side.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because I know you do two sides to your business.
Yes.
Now that you're on your own, you run a corporate part and you run a mass market part. So talk about that as well.
Okay, so the mass market part is an offshoot from my experience with recruiting for organizations. far back in 2012 or 2013 or thereabout, I discovered that most of the blogs I was reading around recruiting were foreign blogs. There was no Nigerian voice. But there are so massive HR people in Nigeria, but nobody is talking about it. You recruit for organization and candidate need feedback. How do I get better? Nobody is talking about it. And I said, I think I need to cover a gap. I need to find a way to localize HR content for Nigeria.
Interesting.
And that was how I started writing for Jobberman. And I remember my very first post on Jobberman was how to make your job search easy. And what did I talk about? The mistakes job seekers make when they're applying for a job. And gradually I started writing for Jobberman consistently. I noticed the comments where the engagement rate on my post was getting massive. Sometimes I write a post and I'm seeing like 20 comments from the first day it was published. So it gave me an understanding that people are in need and hungry for such information. And
actually, if 20 people commented, it means there are other 90% who didn't comment.
Which we call them the invisible audience. So that now made me know that there is a market. And maybe coming from my own perspective to say, I didn't have much information even when I was going through my career discovery journey. And I said, can I be the voice to give people the answers they are looking for? Gradually, I now started doing a lot of guest blogging. Gradually, Ventures Africa called on me. And I remember the very first post I released on Ventures Africa, how to find a job you love. Till tomorrow, I still have reference to that. And what did I do? Consume foreign content, sieve out the ones that are not relevant to us, and drive home the points. And some of the things that most people are asking around is finding a job they love, things around salary negotiation course. So gradually we now started expanding the niche. I was still doing it while I was in paid employment, and I had two personnel, let me put it that way. I had the presence on the job, and the writing and the blogging was my second life, because I'm the kind of person that I easily get bored. I need to do a lot of things. So blogging was my side, and at the same time I needed to be very careful with disclosure. Because if you're in HR consulting, you're doing a lot of issues around disclosure, client confidentiality. So I needed to draw a line between that. Somewhere along the line, I started writing about social recruiting as well. How HR and social media match.
I interviewed you that time, if you remember.
Exactly, on Audacity to Lead Twitter chat.
When
we're talking about how HR and HR meets technology.
Social media,
And gradually, while I was talking about it, I was writing on a socialmeep.com. Gradually, Punch newspaper
picked it up.
The editor of iPunch, at that time they were starting it. They wanted an internet twist to things. And the guy, funny enough, went to OAU. He dropped a comment on my blog, SegunAkiode.com. And from that comment, I said, are you serious? I contacted him. My very first post on Punch was actually on how corporate Nigeria can embrace social media. So he did it, social recruiting.
Interesting.
And gradually, that was how. So for me, that's how the mass market work knows what blew off. And it was still in let me say, in agreement with the fact that I wanted to make impact. So summarizing, it says there is the corporate side and there is the mass market side.
Awesome.
So that's it in summary.
Awesome.
And to add also, my podcast is also trying to answer that same.
I'm actually moving straight to your podcast right now, because I also understand that around the same time I was getting started with Audacity to Lead as a podcast, even as a brand entirely. I remember we used to be in a group together those days, and me, you, John Obidi, and some other guys who are very good. So I now realize that that time you actually started with a particular podcast. I'm not sure it's Career and Employability Talk.
It was. Okay. How it started was I had opportunity to have some radio interviews.
You now recorded them?
Yes, they were now recorded and released. The first one was with Radio Continental. I had opportunity to be doing that with Ayo Owoduni. He used to have a particular session, so I usually call in or go live. So that's how the podcasting, let me say, journey started. So some of them I have, when I have the audio files, I release them. Then another time I was also opportunity to be on Nigeria Info, and I had opportunity to release some of those podcasts. So I think one of the ones you remember so much was the hottest job in Nigeria. Yeah. It was actually a Radio Continental one. Then Dream Jobs Are Dead. That was the one I did with. So I think that now gave me the idea that if you could go to a radio station to be interviewed, you could have your own platform. And I'm sure we contacted at that time.
Yeah.
When I now launched Career and Employability Talk.
So far, how has having a podcast contributed to this journey of yours?
Wow. Sincerely, it has given me a voice. And the voice it has given me it also almost gives me this sense of preeminence, quotes and unquotes.
You can say that again.
Because I just give you an example of people, anytime career stuff come up, you just see a tag and I'm wondering what's happening there. And consciously it's giving me the fact that I dish out a lot of free stuff almost on a daily basis, weekly basis, and it tells me that the invincible audience are noting it. A few weeks back, I had the opportunity to speak at a youth program of a church, and the youth coordinator that invited me for that event said it was my podcast that she listened to the first time and noted my name down. So at the point I did a WhatsApp class that was free, she was part of the WhatsApp class. For her, it was an opportunity to get close.
Oh, I see.
And the WhatsApp class was confirming an offshoot of what I've been doing, and it was also a free class. Yeah. So for her, when we got to the event, she actually read out my profile
from the podcast.
And it gives this sense of, when you're doing something, they're just saying, I just want to add value. I don't know where it's going to land. I just want to give this information out. And even there are a few other speaking engagements which are on the table today, and people are making reference to my podcast. And for me, those are times when I want to give up. And I release a podcast, you're always watching the statistics to say how many downloads. And you just get an email. There's one in I saw few days back, and somebody said, thank you for the free information I'm always getting in my email on a weekly basis. God bless you. Keep the good work coming. Times when I want to give up podcasting, such mails or such comments just pop up from nowhere. And I said, wow, I think I'm not going to give up this. And for me, it's been massive. And I think it's also part of my book. Because releasing the book also has also created, you needed to give a voice to the... So for me, people have been seeing more of my written word. So taking podcasting seriously was like, okay, hear my voice, connect with me. And I think it's been working
very fun.
If I want to use the word of a friend, it has been working miracles.
Well, it's been wonderful having this chat with you. I've practically learned a lot of things that I didn't see in your book. I didn't see on your podcast. Neither did I read on your blog.
Oh, beautiful. So that means you're privileged.
So thank you so much for being on the show today. The goal of this particular episode was actually to use your story to inspire anyone, the listener who's listening to us right now, and I actually feel it's accomplished its purpose already. But more importantly, it's also helped to know you more personally, and that is very, very wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful listening to you. If there Well, I didn't ask you. If somebody wants to connect with you, how can they get to connect with you?
I think the fastest way is just Twitter at Segun Akiode.
And
also my website, segunakiode.com.
Yes, I like your consistent branding. It's working.
I think that's a part which maybe we didn't get to talk about. I also learned that a bit early. And that's you decide what Google says about you. And I think from the word go, I just started opening anything that was consistent with Segun Akiode. And maybe I was fortunate that nobody thought about it ahead of time.
Because the moment I realized what you just said, I had to go everywhere, take my name everywhere. Once there's a new app, I just go there, register my name, even when I'm not using it, so as to keep the branding consistent. So I really appreciate you for mentioning that. It's been a wonderful time having you on the show today, and I've practically learned a lot of things from you as well.
Thank you so much.
And I hope one day we are going to have you back when you are going to come and share the revenue with us.
Maybe when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it.
But your story is practically your story actually corroborates what this podcast is about: getting focused, getting started, and being impactful. And I think what you've shared so far has shown how you got started, how you became focused by narrowing down to career, and how you actually help a lot of people by being impactful. And that's the essence of having this particular conversation. And once again, I want to say thank you.
Thank you too.
And if you're listening to me, I want to say thank you for joining us on this show today. It's been a wonderful time having you tune in and listen, and I'm going to be catching you on the next episode. But before then, remember to get focused, to get started, and be impactful. And if you are trying to remember anything on this particular episode, you can simply go to audacitytolead.com. You'll find the links to everything that has been mentioned on this particular episode right over at audacitytolead.com. So once again, catch you on the next episode.